How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? It is Tuesday, and you know what that means. Time for some Tuesday Dow, but this time we found ourselves at a position with no more Dow left. But is that really possible? I don't know. Well, we're here to find out. Hopefully you're doing well, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully everybody had a fantastic 4th of July week and a safe and happy and enjoyable, enjoyful. I'm really making up some good words here today, ladies and gentlemen. So hope you got yourself some lemonade or some tea or a beverage of choice. It is getting hot out here this time of the year, and I'm sure it is wherever you are too. So hope you're staying cool, ladies and gentlemen. And today what we're going to do is take a look at the epilogue, the last little bit here that Wayne writes in the end of this book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao, which we did for over a year and a half on this series and on this channel, ladies and gentlemen. Over 81 videos, I think 86 or something so far. And so the last little bit from the previous lesson last week was this. Do the Tao now, from the 81st verse of the Tao Te Ching, coming to us from Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. He says, I leave you with these words of Lao-tzu from Tao Te Ching, a new translation. Now see, there's many versions and copies and translations and interpretations of the Tao Te Ching. And it usually seems to me that these kind of things that have been passed down through the ages, which is I like to call it the wisdom of the ages, but that was a different book. That is this book up over here, Wisdom of the Ages. This was Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. But this wisdom of the Tao, I think, is included in what I like to call, quote unquote, the wisdom of the ages. But I think that includes all of this spiritual philosophy and much more. So, Wayne leaves us with these words from Lao-tzu from Tao Te Ching, a new translation, which were translated by Sam Hamill, or Hamill. Here's the final verse in this different translation. The sage does not hoard, and thereby bestows. The more he gives is what the idea I was getting from that first two lines. And so my mind adjusted the third line, which actually says, the more he lives for others, or the more he gives to others, the greater his life. The more he gives to others, the greater his abundance. So live for others, and you will increase the quality of your own life, which is very paradoxical, because we would think if we are living for others solely, then we will not have any time to enjoy our own life. And this is the power of these spiritual philosophies, especially Lao-tzu's ability to create a powerful lesson out of a paradox or an opposite meaning than what we would usually think it to be. Copy these words by hand, Wayne says. Study them and put them into practice at least once a day. And we will energize the flow of the force of God, of this abundance ability that we have within ourselves. We will energize the flow of this Tao into our lives in this world of the 10,000 things, as Lao-tzu described. Namaste, Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. And those were the final words of the 81st verse of the Tao Te Ching, which we finished up that episode last week. So if you missed it, be sure to go check it back out in this series. I was living without accumulating. Now, we'll dive into the epilogue here. The epilogue begins by saying, Wayne begins by saying in the epilogue, quote, I chose this year-long project on a personal note to share with you how these 81 verses unexpectedly increased my own personal sense of awe and incredulity concerning the power and vast wisdom in this ancient classic, referring to the Tao Te Ching. Reread the display quote at the beginning of this book, which is attributed to Confucius. Legend has it that this master was so impressed by Lao-tzu, Confucius told his disciples, I skipped ahead there, sorry. So impressed by Lao-tzu's influence that he sought him out for consultation on etiquette and rules, which was the major focus of Confucian philosophy, but considered to be hypocrisy and nonsense by Lao-tzu. That's fascinating. So I'll read that again a little more quickly if I can. Legend has it that this master was so impressed by Lao-tzu's influence that he sought him out for a consultation on etiquette and rules, which was the major focus of Confucian philosophy, but considered to be hypocrisy and nonsense from Lao-tzu's point of view. After meeting Lao-tzu, Confucius told his disciples that the man was a sage, a dragon, with mysterious powers beyond the understanding of most people, including Confucius himself. This gives you an idea of maybe the mystical nature of this person, Lao-tzu. Trying to find that display quote in the front of the book. He says, this was for his father, Melvin Lyle Dyer. Even though I never known you, after thoroughly digesting the Tao, I finally get it. It is, and always was, all perfect. I love you. And that is one of the great lessons that Wayne teaches from his life, is that he never met his father, and his father walked out on his mother and his family when he was very, very young, and he ended up growing up in foster homes and had a rough beginning. And he thought, you know, he tells in his speeches, and if you've never listened to Wayne talk, be sure to search him out and listen to some of his speeches, because you can really learn something from the way he describes these kind of things with more of a comical approach and a more personable storytelling way than I'm able to do here in my ramblings in these videos. But, you know, he could have thought like his father was the worst person ever, and he lived with this kind of poison in his mind and, you know, metaphorically his body for many, many years, until he went on this adventure to find his father's grave. And, you know, the whole time he was going there, he was angry. And he, you know, he said he didn't know what he was really going to do when he got there. He just wanted to find out the place, to have some kind of closure, but was still very angry about this. You know, it's kind of a passive anger because there's nothing you could do about it. But he eventually got to this point, and he reached the grave, and he tells the story a little differently each time. But after a long time of contemplation and tears, and He realized that even though I'd never known you, he said to his father at the grave, after thoroughly digesting the Tao, I finally get it. It is and always was all perfect. Because he said for him to become somebody who was to teach others self-reliance and, positive psychology and later spiritual philosophy, this experience had to happen. And it is all perfect in the grand scheme of things. And so this little story about Wayne is a prime example about how we can change the way that we think about something. We can change our thoughts, and we can change the experience of our lives. I don't remember if we did the preface or the preface for this book. Maybe that'd be a good place to go, but here is the display quote. So I'll refresh us here on what Wayne was saying. So after meeting Lao-tzu, Confucius told his disciples that the man was a true sage, a dragon with mysterious powers beyond the understanding of most people, including Confucius himself. It makes me wonder if this is just my wild mind going off into an interesting tangent, but what if dragons were real in the past and they existed in multiple forms, somewhat shapeshifters in human and dragon-like forms, taking the role of emperors or kings and queens of different nations or empires, whatever that be back then. And they were from this long lineage and long surviving lineage of an elder race, maybe, that lived for thousands and thousands of years. And the very last few were those very odd and mystical ancient sages, maybe such as Lao-tzu, which is odd that Confucius would describe him as a dragon with mysterious powers beyond the understanding of most people. Just a random conspiracy there for you, ladies and gentlemen. I like to come up with interesting theories. Now, after that being said, what was it? Well, this is from The Way of Life, according to Lao-tzu, translated by Witter Bynner. This quote was attributed to Confucius after he visited the sage, the dragon, the elder, Lao-tzu, as we were just told about, to seek advice on points of ceremonial etiquette and rules. And this is what Confucius said. Of birds, I know that they have wings to fly with, of fish that they have fins to swim with, and of wild beasts that they have feet to run with. For feet, there are traps, and for fins there are nets, and for wings there are arrows. But who knows how dragons surmount wind and cloud into heaven? This day I have seen Lao-tzu, and he is a dragon. Fascinating, ladies and gentlemen. Fascinating. Throughout the writing, Wayne continues, of these 81 short essays around each verse of the Tao Te Ching, he felt an almost mystical attraction to Lao-tzu. In the early verses, I thought of him as a great educator, offering all of us advice on how to apply his wisdom from an ancient Chinese perspective into our modern world and our modern lives today. And as time passed, Wayne continues, I became more engrossed in his teachings. I began to feel that Lao-tzu was speaking directly to me. And then through me, Wayne says, to you and to us, ladies and gentlemen, and even to coming future generations. It felt at times as if Lao-tzu was intently saying that we had to get these important messages or perish as a civilized society. As this book unfolded, there were times, Wayne says, that he could even feel his presence. When I conducted writing this manuscript and finally concluded, I had an unavoidable and painful opportunity to experience the dragon-like qualities that impressed Confucius. It's very fascinating that he called it painful. I had an unavoidable and painful opportunity to experience the sage-like, maybe, or the mystical. He says, though, dragon-like qualities that impressed Confucius. Through the Tao Te Ching, Lao-tzu gave me insight into the way to confront the winds and the clouds of time and space. And along with what initially seemed to Wayne to be an insurmountable crisis. That's a cryptic paragraph. Let's see if he explains it here. As I reread the final edit of Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, I was presented with perhaps the greatest personal challenge of my life. I felt the deep internal hurt that often drives human beings into conflict. I felt the anger that allows people to think of themselves as victims and ultimately leads to the extremes of war that are addressed so frequently throughout the Tao Te Ching. My thoughts struggled with how Lao-tzu could speak of never having enemies. Surely it would be impossible for anyone to stay serene and feel connected to their source of love and well-being in the face of what I was going through, he says. What good fortune could be hidden in this misfortune that seemed to emerge out of nowhere for no justifiable reason? Was I now to be the designated teacher for quote-unquote bad men? On and on went the questions within me, as it does to all of us when we have our own struggles in life. And I think this is the picture that he's painting here is, while teaching and writing on each of these lessons and creating this book, and while I've created this series and talked and hopefully taught on these lessons, I have also had my own ups and downs. Now, I have not gone through any kind of personal crisis, but can anyone really always be serene in the face of whatever it is we're going through? And these kind of questions continue to go on and on within all of us, as we should continue, as what he says here, reading each verse, seeking to achieve and then maintain our happiness through a diligent practice and a greater awareness and understanding of the nature of our reality. It began to feel, Wayne continues, as if Lao-tzu's dragon-like character appeared, burning my face as I read. It was almost as if he spoke these words directly to me. So you think you've mastered the great way because you've spent a year reading and interpreting these 81 verses? Here's an opportunity to explore your mastery of the Tao. Here's something unexpected that's capable of turning you upside down and inside out, spiritually, physically, intellectually and emotionally. Apply all that I've taught you. Stay peaceful. Trust your nature. Know that it is all perfect. And most of all, do nothing. Live the hidden virtue of the Tao. If you feel dragged into a war, refuse to have any enemies. Don't have any violence in your mind. No revenge and absolutely no judgment. Wow. It continues. Do this while staying centered in the all-loving, all-knowing perfection of the Tao, of the force, of God, of the universe, of Atum, of reality, whatever that be for you, ladies and gentlemen. Do all of this while staying centered in the all-loving, all-knowing perfection of the Tao, in the face of what you think of as insurmountable. Then you will be able to call yourself a man of the Tao, a woman of the Tao, a sage. That's an ultimate challenge, ladies and gentlemen. I begin to feel, Wayne continues, that Lao-tzu was warming me with his dragon fire, as each verse was exactly what I needed each time I reread it. You know, that hit me home, because it was for me throughout this whole series, this journey, this experience, this playlist, these 81 verses over this last year and a half, almost once a week. And I got that comment so many times. So many times. Maybe we'll have to go back through the comments of this series one time and check all those out, but you can do that for yourself as well. That's incredible, though. So many times people said that in the comments, that each verse was exactly what they needed at the time that we were doing the video, or at the time that they found it, which he says that each time that I reread it. And it was for me too. So thank you for those of you who have joined me. And thank you for getting value out of this wonderful, amazing, life-changing, powerful, profound journey of Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life with Dr. Wayne W. Dyer, and here with me. What at first seemed so hopeless, Wayne says, and devastating, became my ultimate calling: to live joyously, with deep gratitude for all that the universe, or that God, he calls the Tao here, brings into our lives. I'll say it again, so that we can begin to see our challenges as our ultimate opportunities or calling or lessons, that we can begin to learn how to live more joyously with a deep sense of gratitude for everything that the Tao brings to us and into our lives. That doesn't mean you have to love the tragedies that come into your lives. This just means that you see it with a different perspective than, oh, this isn't supposed to be happening. And, we come at it from a new viewpoint. And we respond with ability rather than reacting with a disability. As you close this book, reacting with a lack of ability would probably be a better way to say that. As you close this book, it is my wish to you and to all of you listening, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else in the world, that we too will be able to apply this great wisdom of the Tao so that we can, even in the most difficult times, change our thoughts and enjoy changing our lives as well. And I've said this in every video, and this has been the purpose of this channel. Now, it has become more clear to me over time because I wasn't sure, what I wanted to focus on in the beginning, but I realized that it doesn't matter what we focus on as long as it helps us create a greater awareness and understanding of our lives and the nature of life and reality and God and the universe and metaphysics and philosophy and psychology and, all of these different areas of life that can help us. As Wayne says here, it is his wish that we too will be able to apply this wisdom, whether it be from any one of those areas in any other area, that can get us to a place so that we can, even in the most difficult of times, change our thoughts and enjoy changing our lives as well. Now, I'll admit, ladies and gentlemen, I am 0% a Tao master, and I am 0% a spiritual master, and I am not anyone's guru, and I'm just as much a beginner as any of you are, though some may comment and say, oh, you're an old soul and you're so wise. Thank you very much, but I really appreciate it, and it's good to know that some people actually get something out of this, but I also enjoy the comments that say, you're an idiot and you're just rambling for 20 minutes, blah, 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 spiritual, blah, 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 mystical. Because that's fun too. So whichever side of the spectrum you're on, I don't care. Although I do appreciate the positive side. However, the point being that we are here to gain an ability not to be a Tao master, but just to be a person of the Tao. He says, I may not be a Tao master, but I am a man of the Tao, Wayne says. And so not that we can be spiritual masters, but that we can go through our lives with a little better ability to experience a little higher quality of life through a little greater awareness or understanding of those things. So we are not trying to claim that we are any form of masters here, but we are students. And I think living as a student of life, like when you get out of school, this is a problem. This will be a different rant here for a moment, but when we get out of school, it's like, yay, we're done forever. No more learning. Because that's what school made us feel like. It was like, all right, did you learn enough for the test? And then once the test is over, good job if you did a good job, bad job if you didn't do a good job. And this is how you rate yourself. This is a terrible idea. Whoever thought this was a good system was probably the precise people that founded it a little over 100 and some years ago. That's its own area of research if you want to go there. And it's very interesting to find out who founded a lot of the institutions that we have today that create the structure of our society, whether that be the educational or other areas. But the answers become apparent quickly when you find out the purpose of all of that. That's a different subject. So, with that being said, we need to become lifelong learners, ladies and gentlemen. Lifelong learners. What that means is we never stop. And if you can get to this point to where you have found an area of interest, and then found a way to listen, to read, or to research and interact and study and explore this area of reality that interests you. This is what blew my mind when I became fascinated with these kind of things, whether it be psychology or philosophy or spiritual, mystical stuff. is that there really is endless areas of study in life. And if you are fascinated with grass, just grass, like plain old lawn grass, you could spend your lifetime being a master at learning about and knowing about and discovering and, understanding all the different things you could know about grass. And then you could teach people and you could have your own business on taking care of people's grass. And you could have your own, social media channel sharing knowledge and wisdom to people. And you could have your own books about what you've learned about grass. This is what I'm talking about. Is any one of us can find an area of interest in our lives and make it our lives. But we haven't been taught this by the system, because that doesn't work well for society, I guess, because we need employees to continue to work the system. We don't need individuals trying to find their passion in life and make that their living. I don't know how I got onto this tangent, but this is kind of what started me on this journey of seeking. This is why I started a YouTube channel. I was like, oh, really? Like, I was realizing that you could become passionate about anything, and then you could make it your life. And so, with that being said, however these words of the Tao Te Ching came to you and came to be written to endure to us for over 25 centuries, 2,500 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to have been called in the weird universal Tao way that it all works. And as Wayne said, I am honored to have been called to help all at attempt for me, but for him, clarify these 81 life-changing, profound lessons of the Tao Te Ching and bring them to us with a greater clarification and a greater understanding, because some of them are very difficult. And even now, I could go back through each and every one of them and gain new insight. And maybe, as the tea usually says in the cooler months of the year, even though I like tea all year long, but we can always start again, ladies and gentlemen. And so now, knowing it's weird, I wonder what made me talk about that being lifelong learners. My mind works so weird, I'll go on a tangent and then forget why I started it and probably not even say the thing that I was trying to get to anyways. So if you've noticed me do that, please leave a yes with a thumbs up in the comments. But it's like, I may not be a master, but we are a student. We are a man or a woman of the Tao. So we may not be masters, but this is the purpose, that we are to live as students of life, being lifelong learners. And then that's what got me into. And you can really find some enjoyment in life when you find what it is that you're passionate about and turn that into, yeah, okay, that's where we were going. I'm honored, ladies and gentlemen, just as Wayne says here, to have been called in a weird way to end up where I am here, attempting to clarify what Wayne has already made clear with my own thoughts and ramblings and bring them here to you, watching and listening. I am at peace right now. And as Wayne said, as his master taught him, that the real meaning of enlightenment is being immersed in and surrounded by peace. And so if we can get ourselves there at any moment, remember, enlightenment isn't a scale of leveling up. There are moments, instances of enlightenment. And the more that we learn of these philosophies that pertain to spiritual understanding, quote unquote, awareness or enlightenment, the more that we can have this satori, or momentary, instant, or instance of enlightenment. Enlightenment, an enlightened moment, maybe, rather than trying to constantly be there. And then maybe we will find ourselves enlightened much more often. It's just a thought, ladies and gentlemen, just a thought. And finally, he ends with thank you to Lao-tzu. Thank you, Wayne Dyer, is where I will end. Thank you, Lao-tzu. Thank you, Wayne Dyer. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here in this journey. He has the acknowledgments here at the end. He says, I thank the translators and authors of the following 10 books: The Essential Tao, an Initiation into the Heart of Taoism, translated and presented by Thomas Cleary. The Illustrated Tao Te Ching, a new translation with commentary by Stephen Hodge. Tao Te Ching by Lao-tzu, translated by Giefu Feng, Jane, English. The definitive edition of the Tao Te Ching by Lao-tzu, translated and commentary by Jonathan Starr. A new English version by Stephen Mitchell. Tao Te Ching, a new translation, translated by Derek Bryce and Leon Viger. A new translation, translated by Sam Hamill. Tao Te Ching, translated by John C.H. Wu. A Warrior Blends with Life, a Modern Tao by Michael Latorre. And finally, last but not least, The Way of Life, according to Lao-tzu, translated by Witter Biner. Wayne W. Dyer, PhD, is an internationally renowned author and speaker in the field of self-development. He's the author of 30 books and has created many audio programs and videos and has appeared on thousands of television and radio shows. Not to mention all the forms of that has been repurposed into our podcast and YouTube platforms of today. So you can find him on Audible or on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, ladies and gentlemen. His books, Manifest Your Destiny, Wisdom of the Ages, There's a Spiritual Solution to Every Problem, which is on the shelf. You need to get it for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. The New York Times bestsellers, 10 Secrets for Success and Inner Peace. I don't have that one yet. Maybe that's a good one we need to get and do in the future. 10 Secrets for Success and Inner Peace. That'd be a good one. The Power of Intention. Ooh. And Inspiration have all been featured as national public television specials. So he presented all of this himself in front of audiences. Wayne holds a doctorate in educational counseling from Wayne State University. I always thought that was hilarious. His name was Wayne and he went to Wayne State University. And was an associate professor at St. John's University in New York. It just gives you one simple website, www.drwaynedyer.com. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. And there's a few Hay House titles of related interest. 4 Acts of Personal Power by Denise Linn. Heal Your Body, The Mental Causes for Physical Illness and the Metaphysical Way to Overcome Them by Louise Hay. Ladies and gentlemen, That needs to be on everybody's shelf, and I still need to get it for myself. Put it on my shelf. Kick up your heels before you're too short to wear them. The power of the soul. A lot of good stuff, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of good stuff. And this series has been just that, a lot of wonderful lessons and a lot of good stuff. And so I think I feel comfortable. We'll leave it there for now. I mean, maybe we'll come back and reference some things as we always do. But that, ladies and gentlemen, was an ultimate journey. Wayne said, I hope you'll feel joyously in love with Lao-tzu and this wondrous teaching from the Tao Te Ching, and that we'll add our light and color to the world, to the great way. I offer you my love, along with my commitment to a Tao-centered world, and a world all out of higher consciousness. I can think of no greater vision for us, for our planet, and for the universe. Wayne W. Dyer. And a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! That was fantastic, and that was the ultimate journey. The longest series I've ever done, and maybe the longest I've ever stayed committed to a project. Because, you know, my kind of art projects, like the painting back there, usually take less than one day. So for me to stay committed to this project over such a long time, it's I feel proud, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I delivered on giving you some value. And if you got value, consider subscribing and sharing this with somebody who is like-minded, so hopefully they can also get something that can help them, to help them experience a higher quality in their lives. A higher quality, you know, a better feeling, more joyous, or more even just accepting of life, and trying to work on that, and whatever we can do to be more positive, more optimistic, and to understand the struggles that we do have, and take those challenges with greater strength, that comes from within ourselves, that we build up through this never-ending process of spiritual study and discovery and philosophy. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, seek to achieve and maintain happiness through enlightenment. Seek to discover the wisdom of the ages and the mysteries of our history. And remember that there is no way to happiness, because happiness is the way. It is what we must bring to life. And when we can begin to do that, all the things we've been telling ourselves, oh, I'll be happy when I get there, or when I have this much, those things become irrelevant, because then we are there. And hopefully the entire journey is wonderful. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I love and appreciate all of you. It means so much to me that you would spend time here with me and Lao-tzu and Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. And it really means a lot to me. This was quite a fun one. Tomorrow, Wednesday Wisdom, we'll be diving deeper into the Hermetica, continuing our series on the Hermetica. Next chapter is entitled Rebirth. And in this chapter, Hermes reveals the secrets of spiritual rebirth, through which we can awaken to our immortal soul. Well. That sounds exciting. All right, ladies and gentlemen, be sure to expand the description. Oh, I updated my Etsy shop last week, so there is some paintings available on there if you'd like to get one for yourself to put it on your shelf or your wall or wherever, because they're nice decorations, ladies and gentlemen. It gives you some kind of inspiration when you look into a beautiful scenery of nature. It helps add to the enjoyment in life, a little bit more happiness, a little bit more beauty, I think is what we all need. And also there's a link to C60 Purple Power, the most powerful antioxidant known to man. I need to get some more for myself now. And the C60 gummies. I was wanting to get those for my dad, make it easier. You know, sometimes taking the oils, not the easiest thing to do all the time, I guess, for some people. And so they have gummies as well. Give yourself the gift of health. And also you'll find a link to the book so you can put it on your shelf. For yourself, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Wayne W. Dyer. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. And we'll be back tomorrow with some Wednesday wisdom, diving deeper into the lost wisdom of the pharaohs and the Hermetica. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Be the change that you want to see. Be the example that you want to set.